Hey, listen, welcome to Rauta's classic review albums. Today's band comes from Norway and it's Thorns. And this is so far the only album by the very band or solo project as it might be described. This one is from 2001 and it's the self-titled one by Thorns. As you can pretty much see, this is not the original version that was put out in 2001. I don't recall why or how I got this 2011 version, if I remember correctly, done by Peaceville instead of Moonfolk, but here it is. This one is, I guess, called Super Jewel Case, which once upon a time was supposed to be more popular because it's more durable or resistant because, rounded corners, and it was supposed to last more hits and all that stuff. I don't know, be it as may, here it is, and this one is how the reissue shows and looks like. As you can see here, it says Vortex Video is as a bonus track. Not something that you have so often with your typical CDs these days. I mean, it's just purely CD and not data or anything like that. But this is the reissue version indeed, and what matters the most is, of course, the music. Now, there are a lot of stories and things and theories like that, which might explain why it's not the man behind the band isn't exactly the most active one and why he didn't do more music. Now, I've theorized this one in the past, especially to this year's Inferno Fest. We had this talk with a pal of mine, and basically saying that, everybody thinks that, or a lot of people seem to think that Burzum only destroyed Mayhem with his, horrible act, murdering Euronymous back in the days, and then I have been saying for years that actually he destroyed both bands, because when Euronymous got murdered, well, obviously Mayhem kind of was forced to change, and things were not the same. But in fact, I think he destroyed three bands. First of all, Burzum became quite crappy after that event, doing their prison albums and all that stuff, and not so much metal anymore, even though there are a couple of good ones. But thirdly, and this might be even more important, is he actually kind of destroyed Thorns as well. Because here in Metal Archives, you can pretty much see, this started as early as 1990, and could have been indeed one of the fundamental bands of Norwegian scene, and it been other ways. I mean, there was like few demos, 1991, 1992, there was a lot of potential for things to happen. But, as we all know, with Euronymous murder, people got sentenced and all that stuff. One person lost his life, and three bands, courses were kind of ruined or destined to become something very different than it would have been otherwise. So, the only album Thorns has ever put out is this one from 2001. But there are a lot of years when things could have been different. And it's really a shame that it never happened. Now, I don't know why there hasn't been more Thorns albums after this one, because I guess creativity has always been there, but we're not to speculate about that. Just saying things sometimes have more consequences that you might originally feel like. Anyway, Thorns is the name of the game here, and we're gonna talk about that. As you can see on the members list, it's just not Snorre, but technically speaking, like if you take a look at here, the first, formative years anyway, it was just Snorre. And past members have, these different people coming and going and all that stuff, but, things were not supposed to last, I guess. And later on, there have been other people as well, but, like here are three different people mentioned. These are way after when this album was done. So they don't really care. They don't really matter so much when you're talking about this album. So Thorns is black metal, but it's just beyond normal black metal, whether we are talking about Norwegian style or other ways around. For example, this is labeled here on Metal Archive side as black industrial metal, and I think it's very, very accurate in so many reasons. First of all, we have Mysticum from Norway, which more or less kind of define how black industrial metal is supposed to sound, how it sounds very mechanic in a way, nothing like humane, like, those machine-made beats and all that stuff. But Thorns added another layer, maybe removed something as well, but more importantly, it features Snorre's style of riffing, which then again inspired Euronymous and probably a lot of other people as well, creating his own sound and feel when it comes to making those riffs. And that is, in my opinion, the most meaningful thing on Thorns' album, or Thorns' music in the first place. Because the thing here is, without these guitars, obviously, doesn't matter how much industrial elements you would put there, you know, the guitar work is actually that defines most. It's something of a unique kind, very dark, a little bit off what you usually hear any kind of music, not alone just black metal. And I think it's very fantastic. It's sinister, it's ominous, it's kind of like something else. And there is definitely this industrial feeling to it, because the approach to playing guitars and making those chords play and all that stuff, it's just not something that you hear every day. On top of that, you have a lot of those, what you could nowadays, I guess, say sound bag sounds. You have those real pulsating sounds, or like as if machines are making their music, like some big motors or part of industrial complex are doing their sounds. Some of these are something that you might have heard on some dark ambient albums. So it's much like some machine is doing some weird, bizarre, evil work while there are these guitar riffs. And then you have these magnificent vocals and these kind of a keyboard sounds, and they all blend in wonderful ways. I'm not saying perfect, because I don't really think a perfect album exists, but given that this is the first album and the only one by the band so far, it's just wow, amazing work, because everything just clicks close to perfection. Those industrial sounds, the guitar riffs, the vocals, those percussions, and the production here is just wow. This is as much pioneering as Mysticum was maybe a little bit before or after, depending how you want to look at it, but let's not go splitting hairs here. My point here is these two bands defined industrial black metal better than anything after that, or before that if there are cases. In my opinion, Thorns is often overlooked a classic. I won't use the word underrated, because I think overrated and underrated are both underrated and overrated words. I mean, for every album that is highly, respected, there are some people like, I don't like that, I think it's overrated. And for every cult classic, it's like, hey, this is like overrated crap. There's always some people saying, like, it's like the best thing ever, I like, okay, some people just seem things different, and that's fine. I'm just saying it's often overlooked because it seems like not too many people know about it. So it's not about being underrated for not like being certain things, or because it's not praised so often. I just think people don't know Thorns well enough, and for a couple of reasons. It never was a big band touring and doing a lot of albums, so it kind of goes under the radar way too often. And the other thing is, well, once you have only one album, it isn't like it's circulating constantly versus bands which have album out every 2 or 3 years or whatever. So lack of gigs, lack of festivals, lack of albums, they all, mean that you are kind of bound to become this cult band that only selected few know about. And I think Thorns would have deserved more. Not because it's just like, hey, he did this and that, but because this music is fucking fabulous. It's a great album, like I said, near perfect in its own genre. Definitely something that people should be listening to. And I hope with this video I give you reasons enough to check it out. So Thorns, here it is. Go check out it, and let's just keep our thumbs up and fingers crossed that there will be another Thorns album once upon a time. Meanwhile, we'll go back to this classic one, so keep listening and keep digging. This is Rauta, take care, and see you soon with more classic reviews coming your way.